The battlefield was quiet after the Great War ended. The air was thick with smoke, and sparks from broken machines flickered across the dark sky. All around were burned ships, twisted metal, and the smell of fuel. In the middle of the wreckage, a single human engineer named Elias Ward walked carefully, his boots sinking into the soft gray dust. He had come here to repair the damaged communication tower that once connected the two armies. He did not expect to find anyone alive. As he searched through the wreckage, his flashlight caught a glint of silver. He thought it was a broken piece of armor, but when he got closer, he froze. It was not just a piece of armor. It was someone wearing it. A tall alien woman lay trapped under a fallen beam. Her body armor, made of strange glowing metal, was cracked open near her side. Her breathing was uneven, and her long hair, white like starlight, was tangled with ash. Elias's heart jumped when he recognized her face. Every soldier knew that face from the broadcast screens. She was Queen Serathia, ruler of the Zorai Dominion, one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. Her people had fought the humans for years, and now she was right in front of him, hurt, weak, and alone. For a moment, Elias hesitated. If anyone found out he had touched the alien queen, he could be punished. But when he heard her groan softly, all those thoughts disappeared. He threw his repair pack aside and rushed toward her. "Don't move," he said quickly, trying to lift the beam. The metal was heavy, but he used a small power tool to loosen it, his arm straining. The queen opened her eyes, golden and sharp like a cat's. Even while hurt, her voice was strong. "Human, what are you doing here?" "Saving you," Elias said. "Stay still. You're bleeding." She tried to push him away weakly. "You should not touch me." "You are forbidden." Elias ignored her words. "You're dying," he said simply. "Rules can wait." He finally pulled the beam aside and carefully helped her sit up. She winced, holding her side, and looked down at her wound. Her armor was broken, and silver blood slowly flowed out. Elias quickly opened his medical kit and took out a sealant patch. When he reached to press it over her wound, she flinched, her sharp gaze warning him. "Do not touch," she started to say, but the pain cut her voice short. "Then close your eyes," Elias said softly. "This will hurt for a second." Her breath caught when the patch sealed over her skin, the nanogel inside activating. She stared at his hands, rough, covered in dust and tiny burns. They trembled a little, but he was careful, gentle, and focused. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had treated her like that. When he finished, he tore strips from his own jacket to make a clean bandage. "You'll be fine," he said quietly. "But you need rest. Can you walk?" She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes fixed on him, unreadable. Then, in a low voice, she said something that made him pause. "Only my consort has ever helped me like this." Elias looked at her, unsure if he had heard her right. "What did you say?" Her gaze softened, and for the first time, her proud voice wavered. "In my world, only one person is allowed to touch the queen like this. Only the one who shares her bond. You remind me of him." Elias didn't know how to respond. The silence between them grew heavy. He wasn't a soldier, just an engineer who fixed things, and now he had saved someone who could destroy planets. He stood up and looked around the wreckage. "Your people might be looking for you," he said after a moment. "You should signal them. I'll boost your beacon." He pulled out his tool again and began repairing the signal device attached to her armor. She watched him work, her golden eyes following every move. The light from the fire reflected off his face, showing small scars near his jaw, marks of someone who had worked too long in war zones. "You are not afraid of me," she said quietly. Elias gave a tired half smile. "I've worked with machines that explode if you breathe wrong. You don't scare me." For a second, she almost smiled too, but it disappeared quickly as her communicator beeped to life. A strange symbol glowed in the air, showing that her rescue ship had received the signal. "They are coming," she said softly. "You should leave, human. They will not understand what you have done." Elias nodded, picking up his bag. "Good, you'll live. That's all that matters." As he turned to go, she stopped him with a question. "Why did you help me?" "We are enemies." He looked back at her, tired but calm. "Because you were hurt. Doesn't matter who you are." For a moment, she just stared at him as if trying to understand the strange logic of a human heart. She wanted to speak again, but the deep rumble of an approaching ship filled the air. A large transport vessel landed nearby, kicking up dust. Tall armored Zorai soldiers rushed out, their weapons ready. Elias raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. The soldiers surrounded him, their glowing eyes cold. One of them barked in a harsh alien tone, but before they could act, Sarathia lifted her hand. "Stop," she commanded. Her voice carried royal power even though she was still weak. The soldiers froze instantly. "Do not harm him. He saved my life." The guards looked shocked but obeyed. Elias felt the pressure ease as they lowered their weapons. Sarathia stood with help from one of them, but her eyes never left him. "You will be remembered, Elias Ward," she said firmly. "You may not understand what this means, but I will not forget." He didn't know what to say. He just nodded and watched as they carried her into the ship. The engines roared and the vessel lifted into the sky, vanishing into the smoke and clouds. Elias stood there for a long time, alone again among the ruins. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of metal and fire. He looked down at the small patch of silver blood on his gloves and sighed. The galaxy was full of rules and politics, but he had never cared about them. He was just a man who fixed broken things. But now he realized he had fixed something far more fragile than machines. He had seen fear in her eyes, pride, pain, and for a brief moment, something like trust. And somehow that small moment changed something inside him too. As he walked back to his ship, he looked up at the dark sky where her transport had vanished. "Only her consort," he murmured to himself with a faint smile. "Guess I'm in strange company now." Far above, in the silent cold of space, Queen Sarathia sat in her royal chamber, her hand resting lightly over the sealed wound. Around her, medics worked quietly, but she hardly noticed them. Her mind replayed the human's calm face, the warmth in his hands, and the simple words he had said. "You'll be fine." For years she had ruled through fear and strength. But now for the first time she wondered what it meant to be helped, not because of duty, but because someone simply cared. She whispered to herself in her language, words only she could understand. They meant, perhaps peace begins with kindness. And somewhere in the ruins far below, Elias looked at the rising stars, not knowing that his simple act of mercy had already started a change that would echo across both worlds. ChatGPT said, several days had passed since the battle ended. The war-torn land was slowly being cleared, and the skies were no longer filled with the smoke of ships. Elias Ward had returned to his station in the orbiting human base. He worked quietly, repairing systems and avoiding attention. He thought his strange meeting with the alien queen was over. He believed she would forget about him, just like a ruler forgets a soldier's name, but he was wrong. One morning, a message came through his console marked with both human and alien symbols. His commander, an old officer with tired eyes, looked puzzled. "Ward, this message is for you." It came directly from the Zorai Dominion. "Their queen has made a request for you to come to Karis Prime." Elias stared at the message, thinking it was some kind of mistake. "The alien queen, me?" "Yes," the officer said. "They said you saved her life. They're calling it an act of sacred mercy." The officer sighed. "You're either in great trouble or about to make history." 2 days later, Elias was aboard a diplomatic transport headed for Karis Prime, the shining capital world of the Zorai Empire. From orbit, it looked like a crystal sphere wrapped in glowing rivers of light. The closer they flew, the more nervous he felt. The Zorai were known for their strict customs. Humans were still new to their alliance, and now he was going to meet their ruler face to face. When the ship landed, alien guards in silver armor greeted him. Their faces were calm, but their golden eyes studied him closely. Without a word, they led him through long halls made of smooth, glowing stone. The walls shimmered like starlight, and strange symbols moved across them. Finally, they reached the grand throne room. At the end of the hall stood Queen Sarathia. She was dressed in a flowing robe that shimmered like liquid silver. Her wound had healed, but her eyes still carried the same quiet strength Elias remembered. The hall was filled with nobles and soldiers, all bowing low as she rose from her throne. When Elias entered, everyone turned to look at him, the human who had dared to touch their queen. The room was silent except for the hum of energy lights. Sarathia stepped forward slowly, her expression calm but serious. "Human Elias Ward," she said, her voice echoing across the chamber. "You saved the life of your enemy when you had every reason to leave her behind. That act cannot be forgotten." Elias bowed slightly, unsure what to say. "I only did what anyone should do," he said softly. "You were hurt. I helped." A murmur passed through the nobles. They were not used to such simple words. Sarathia lifted a hand, silencing them. You speak as if it were nothing. But mercy in war is rare. You have shown us something my people had forgotten. She motioned for an attendant to bring forward a small silver medallion, shaped like a star surrounded by wings. It glowed faintly in her hand. This is the crest of life. No outsider has ever received it. It is given to those who protect what they could have destroyed. Elias hesitated, but she stepped closer and placed it around his neck herself. The room filled with soft murmurs again. He felt the weight of the metal against his chest. It was warm, almost alive. When the ceremony ended, the guards and nobles left. The grand hall grew quiet. Only Elias and Sarathia remained. She turned away for a moment, looking through the tall glass wall at the twin suns setting over her world. The orange light fell across her face, softening her expression. You have caused quite a stir, she said quietly. My council thinks I have gone mad honoring a human. They fear it makes me look weak. Elias smiled faintly. You don't look weak to me. Her lips curved slightly at his words. You always say such strange things, she said. When I lay dying, I felt your hands steady, not fearful. You did not see a queen, you saw someone in pain. Do all humans think like you? He shook his head. No, I just fix things. That's what I do. You were broken. I helped you heal. She turned back to him, her golden eyes shining in the dim light. You fixed more than a wound, Elias Ward. You fixed something I thought was lost forever. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? For years, she said softly, I have ruled through strength and fear. My people respect power above all. But when I was hurt and helpless, it was not my guards or my council who came. It was a stranger from the enemy's world. You changed how I see your kind. And maybe, how I see myself. Elias didn't know what to say. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant hum of the city outside. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer. I will not order you. I will only ask, will you stay here for a time? My world is broken from war. I want your help rebuilding the old cities. You have a gift for healing what others throw away. Elias thought for a long moment. He remembered the ruins of human colonies, the empty homes, the lives lost in endless battles. Peace had to start somewhere. Maybe this was how. He nodded slowly. If I can help, I'll stay. Her eyes brightened for the first time. Then let it be known, she said, that Elias Ward of Earth will serve as bridgekeeper, one who builds peace between two worlds. From that day, Elias worked among the Zorai engineers, repairing broken structures and damaged machines. Many aliens still distrusted him, but some watched him curiously. He never raised his voice, never acted superior. He simply worked, teaching them small tricks, how to make a power coil last longer, how to patch a damaged circuit without replacing it. Queen Sarathia visited the work sites often. Sometimes she spoke with him about designs or asked questions about Earth. Other times she simply stood in silence, watching him work, her face calm but thoughtful. Little by little, her people began to change their opinion. If their queen trusted this human, maybe he was not so strange after all. One evening, after a long day of work, Elias was leaving the repair dome when he saw her waiting outside. The sunset bathed the horizon in gold. She walked beside him quietly. You've done much, she said softly. My people talk about you now. They say you build as if every piece matters. He smiled tiredly. Every piece does matter. She looked at him, her voice almost a whisper. If only more of my kind believed that, maybe we wouldn't have lost so much. They reached a balcony that overlooked the capital city. The lights below shimmered like stars. For a long time, they stood in silence. Finally, she spoke again. When I first met you, I thought I would die. Now when I see you work, I feel hope. Elias turned toward her. Hope is something you build, he said quietly. One broken thing at a time. She nodded slowly. Then to his surprise, she reached into her robe and pulled out a small metal band, the kind worn by her highest advisors. This belonged to my consort, she said softly. He was lost in the early days of the war. I keep it to remember what trust felt like. Today I give it to you, not as my consort, but as my equal, someone who reminded me what kindness truly means. Elias stared at the band, unsure what to do. I don't know if I deserve that. She smiled faintly. You do not need to deserve kindness. You only need to give it. He took the band carefully, feeling its smooth weight in his palm. The gesture was more than symbolic. It meant the queen had given him her people's trust. From that night onward, Elias became known across both worlds as the human who healed the queen, not just her wound, but her heart. His simple act of mercy turned into the beginning of a fragile peace. As months passed, the human and alien engineers worked side by side. The cities of Karis Prime grew brighter, stronger. And in the center of it all, Queen Serathia often looked toward the stars where Earth shimmered in the distance.